One last attempt here at some green for Wimbledon. I got the limest green I could find in my closet. Here we are. Well, I said it in my previews and I was saying it when I was tweeting today. The best player, the best tennis doesn't always win. And that was definitely the case again. And unfortunately for Roger Federer, it's the case many times over in his career. I don't really want to focus on his career and some of those things. I'm going to look at that tomorrow when I do a complete wrap from Rockaway Beach. But for now, I just want to say that winning is something different than playing great tennis. And winning is something that goes into every sport, into every walk of life, and there's something about that. Now, Roger is a great winner, don't get me wrong on that, obviously. He's won a heck of a lot, but I sometimes feel that Rafa and Novak are a little better at winning, per se. As far as tennis, no one's better than Roger at it, especially today with the type of rackets and the equipment. He would have been great in any era, in my opinion. Wood rackets, it wouldn't have mattered, but he has the most aggressive variety. He's progressive. Even now, after all these years, he's progressing the sport and he's ahead of it. He's ahead of the evolution of the strategies in tennis. Now, Roger, had to play Nadal, obviously, beforehand. And last year, I thought he played way too much tennis. Again, I'll talk about this tomorrow, but I thought last year that was his to lose, Wimbledon. But he played 2 grass tournaments after a big layoff, and it wore him down. And I couldn't believe he did that. And he even said in an interview before the French Open that he wouldn't be playing that again. That was too much tennis heading into Wimbledon. That was a mistake. And I thought if he just played one prep, he would have been fine, and he would have rolled into the final. And Novak had to play Rafa. So that would have been totally, even today, if Novak had played Rafa, you'd think that would have made a difference? Definitely. Now you might say, well, look at Roger, that didn't make a difference. It did make a difference. I know he went far. Brad Gilbert was saying he didn't have any body fatigue. He did. He didn't have all-out fatigue. He wasn't exhausted or tired, but I guarantee you he was feeling it by the end. By the end, he had body fatigue. And more than that, I think he had some mental fatigue that might have led to some of these concentration lapses throughout the whole match that he had. But the other idea there, and I'll talk about that tomorrow, is that he's had that throughout his career. So I don't know if that's just a symptom of, I can tell you this, having to play Rafa, his arch nemesis, who really makes him struggle emotionally, it was a big struggle for him, and that was not easy going back to back. So that's 100%. It would have been a lot easier for him had Novak played Rafa. Nothing against Agut. Agut was great. Now, I did not see any signs of any flatness or flat body or body fatigue early on. So right away, I really thought he might win this match, even because I said in my preview, if he just has it, he's going to be feeling it in his body, but if it's not body fatigue, he can win this. I was wondering if he'd get fatigued late, Well, he did, but after a 5th set that went to a tiebreak in 12-all. So obviously Roger he just had it in his body, but no body fatigue. And had he taken advantage of his opportunities, he could have wrapped this up before it even got to a 5th set. But even after he lost the 1st set, I thought he could still do this. He was playing the better tennis on grass, and he'd continue to do it. His volleys were amazing, his aggressive variety. Now, one thing I will say I did think he wasn't quite aggressive enough, especially early on. He got more aggressive at the end of the 1st, and that's why he really should have, as he got more aggressive at the end of the 1st, he started to take control, and then he had the mini break lead near the end of the 1st tie break, and from there he should have closed it out. And he just, as soon as he got that mini break lead, it was almost like he had a concentration lapse, like I've seen a million times over in his career, and he just went out the window and threw shots all over the place, and just like that, Novak won the set. But here, I don't know if everybody can see this, but this is like a chart I make of like aggressive on the one side and variety on the other side. And when he's playing Rafa Nadal, he definitely wanted to be in the more variety zone, which he was. A lot of dink and dunk, short balls, bad bounces, stuff like that. It was really confounding Nadal and making him frustrated. When you play Novak, that's a different player. Now, he doesn't like those little short balls, but he can deal with them a lot better than Rafa, and he deals with low balls a lot better than Rafa. So you can't just play junk ball with Novak. With Novak, you have to be more aggressive. So Roger was over in this area of variety, of the aggressive variety. He was towards the variety side. he was a little more towards the aggressive middle area, aggressive variety middle, when he first started the match, but he needed to be on this side. You want to play Djokovic right on the other side of the aggressive variety, right over here. Nadal in the middle of the variety is fine, but Djokovic's over here. I think Roger started towards over here, moved over here in set 2, but he stayed around the middle area too much. I think a little more aggression would have maybe won this match as well. But I don't want to make too big a deal about that because his strategy wasn't too far off, just a little more aggression, but we're picking hairs there. In the end of the day, he had the tiebreak under control in the first set. He had all kinds of opportunities in the third set, and then he had championship points in the fifth set. So again, I mean, a little bit of the strategy, maybe a little more aggressive, but I don't want to make too much more of a big deal than that about it. I just think it's interesting how it does slide around for the different players like that, as far as how much aggression versus variety you want to use. One thing I forgot to mention in my videos, and it's a big deal with Novak, is his crankiness, as we call it. He gets upset, he gets agitated, he feels pressure, he lets it out, you see it all over him. And when that starts to happen, he has breathing issues still, and especially in humidity, or God forbid heat. Hot, heat, and humidity both, like you might get at the US Open, or just even the humidity. That Wimbledon was real humid this last week. And I saw it with Goffin in the beginning. He was struggling breathing, and you know, and it gets to his legs a little bit. Not with Goffin so much, and he righted the ship and then he took off. With Agut, it really was getting to him in the middle. He was breathing, and then his legs and his body a little bit, and then for a minute it looked like Agut could take that third set and go up 2-1. And then against Roger, he won the first set, but like I said, it was very difficult. Roger had a variety, picked up the aggression at the end, really had that tiebreak, blew it, and then that's when Novak started the second set with a little bit of a letdown. With a tough first set, had a little bit of a letdown. Roger was really getting aggressive, then started to take over, and then Novak started to not panic, but he started to get agitated for sure. And the next thing you know, the breathing, and the commentators were saying he looked labored, he looked more tired than Roger, where I can guarantee you Roger had more energy dissipation in his body from his Nadal match. But at that point, Djokovic was really breathing hard, and that's what that was about. And it was making his legs get goofy, and the whole thing was going down. And then he went down 2 breaks again in the fourth set. So, and even in the third set, he was struggling with this. Through sets 2-5, 2-4, 2, 3, and 4, Roger should have nailed him every one of those sets. So even if he lost that first set, which he had, and he should have won, he should have nailed him in the second, which he did, nailed him in the third, which he blew, and then nailed him in the fourth, which he did. So again, 3-1, 3 sets to love. Roger, even after the Nadal match, amazingly to me, he wasn't that body fatigued. I thought he would be. He had this match, and he blew all that, and still had more chances in the fifth set, which even shocked me even more. And then, and part of the reason, again, Djokovic's getting flustered is, I know he's a great player and he gets a lot of balls back and all that, but on grass, it's not his best. His best is a slow hard court. You can arguably make the case that Roger is better than Novak at grass, a fast hard court, arguably a clay court, and the one advantage Djokovic has is a slow hard court. So again, the best tennis player doesn't always win. This happens a lot, and it's about winning. It's a whole nother ball game, and Novak knows how to win. But definitely Novak not only struggling with the variety Roger was showing him and some of the upped aggression later in the match, but also his movement. I mean, he was slipping and sliding all along those baseline areas. And one thing is, there weren't as many bad bounces as there were in the Nadal match. So the surface was hardening up more and we weren't getting all those bad bounces. That would have made Novak even more upset. But there weren't quite as many bad bounces. The ball's really slow, so he's able to get to the balls. But even then, there was one ball that skidded that I showed in a video. It skidded off the back where there's some grass left. And Novak was slipping and sliding all over the place a lot. So again, his movement is not what it is on a hard court here. And Federer is a much better mover. So Federer's just a better grass player, period. And arguably you could say Federer is better than Nadal at every surface except clay. So again, why does he lose so much to these guys? Because the best tennis doesn't always win. There's tennis and then there's winning. And they usually go together, but not all the time, especially at the top of the heap, the top guys. The one thing I will say for Roger, possibly I have to give him some mental fatigue. I mean, beating Nadal took so much out of him. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. I mean, took stuff out of him emotionally and mentally. more than physically, obviously. And like I said, once he blew the third set, I thought, oh, he's done. And he did win the fourth, but I knew that Novak would find his way through. And when it's fighting at the end, Novak would have more in the body than Roger. And though it may not have looked like it, I guarantee you, just because Novak's breathing so hard doesn't mean he has it in his body. He even admitted later it was a mental struggle more. Roger was feeling it in his body, whether it looked like it or not. There was one point he was at his knee at the changeover, and between the set 4 and set 5, but he went off court. If it was anything, it was minor, but he definitely was feeling it, legs, back, the whole thing. But he kept going, he kept fighting, and I think the crowd, I underestimated the effect the crowd would have. The crowd really pushed him. His adrenaline was flying. I thought at that point, at first I'm like, he's done in the fifth, right? And then when I saw it, I'm like, my God, he's gonna win this because of the crowd. He's gonna get through all this. And then he got the break, and then he handed it away. It was 40-15. Go back and look at those points where he had 2 championship points. They weren't amazing points by Novak. There was nothing amazing about it. Roger got tight. He got tight in the first set. He got tight early. He got tight late. And then they got to that tiebreak, and by the very end, he was really showing some body fatigue. And I can't even believe, like Brad Gilbert said nothing the whole match. Well, he said there was no body fatigue at all. Come on, man. At the end, you had to see it. When that last tiebreak, he was feeling it, and then you add in the nerves. The nerves get worse when your body's getting a little tired, and it just, he was gone. He was gone. That tiebreak, not physically, but the whole thing, mentally, emotionally, it was done. And it's a shame. I'll talk more about it. I mean, nothing again. Great for Novak. He's a great player, but Roger. I think I could write a book on all the slams, all the matches he hasn't won, and not as an insult, but as a tribute to how great he is and how great his talent is, how great his tennis is. But there's a deal, like when winning, you have to close the deal. In fact, I'm making sure to finish my video today, and then I'm going to do one more tomorrow because I want to work on myself on closing the deal. So I'll close the deal on these videos, but I can guarantee you what Roger's trying to close the deal on is a hell of a lot harder than what I am. But I'm just saying, it is what it is. Novak and Nadal are incredibly fierce competitors, and they can win even when they're not playing, when they're not as good as a tennis player or playing as good a tennis as someone. Again, Novak on a slow hard court is another deal, but here on grass, he is not as good as Roger, but he won again.